This hide is smaller than the hide that we worked at the Dena'ina Wellness Center. So this was a roadkill moose that was a female moose that was hit in about May. It's a thinner moose hide and it's a smaller moose hide because of the age, the gender, and the time of year. Since we can't go hunting in the springtime anymore in the modern era, we get moose through the roadkill salvage program. This is the time of year when Helen has been talking about get a moose in the spring. This is a spring moose that's a female, and that's the ideal size to be working with. It's been scraped of almost all of the hair and then all the flesh, so it's been cleaned and washed and then stretched out to dry. When we were done working on this hide, because we ran out of time, we could have put it in the freezer and frozen it, but we decided to stretch it out and dry it. I like to stretch it out into rawhide because it gets all the water weight out of it once, and when you go to soak it, it won't absorb as much water and it will take more of that brain matter into it, is what I feel like it does. So it just makes it a little bit easier when you go to wring it out, because once it's shrunk like this, it will never hold as much water as when it was fresh. So this hide still has a little bit of scraping and a lot of washing to do. I'm gonna go ahead and smoke it, and then I would soak it again and then scrape it. And to help soften the hide, before we put it in the brain solution, I want to smoke this one. It's one of the stages where you can smoke it to make it softer. So that's the plan for right now, just to kind of impart some smoke in that. It'll be a light smoke. We'll smoke it for a couple hours probably. It's not meant to be that final smoke. It's just a light. Get smoke into it, help soften the smoke. And the smoke, it actually, because the smoke is affecting the pH of the hide when it goes into the solution, when you put it in water, because that ash that kind of gets trapped in there kind of changes the pH of the water. So that helps kind of break down some of those collagen, those proteins in the skin. And then also the smoke particles themselves go into the hide and they can act as a little bit of an abrasive. And they also fill in some of the gaps between the skin and help with it not becoming as hard when it shrinks back the next time. We're getting ready to smoke the hide, so I dug a hole in the ground and I have a sawed-off 55-gallon drum barrel that's in the hole, so that's ready to go. This is just a collapsible awning that expands and contracts. What I'm going to do is expand it all the way and then just basically put plastic around it to act like a sealed container, and then put the hide suspended from the rafters of the metal above the smoke. So it'll just be like in a smoke chamber. There's a hair side and the flesh side, and we put the hair side down facing the smoke right now. So we have the hide suspended above the center of the ring here, and have our quick matches, and we have some dry spruce that was right next to the punky part of the tree, so it's less sappy. The other thing that Charlie was mentioning yesterday was using like dry willow, and I just don't have any dried willow right now, so I'm going to use the dry spruce that's by the punky stuff. And we'll just make a little teepee to start the fire burning. And then once we get a little bit of a flame going, then we'll bring in some of this punkier wood to put next to it and start it smoldering. And then because we're working with the metal, what I'm going to do is when it kind of gets going, I'm going to put these metal pieces on top like that to shield the direct flame from going up to the hide, and it'll force the smoke out to the sides and the flame out the sides so we don't get too much heat building up.
That's the way to get all the smoke.
And then we put the hair side down?
Yeah,
Okay.
hair side down.
Hair side down.
Because the other side you're going to be sewing or whatever you're going to make on it.
Okay.
You can't smoke the hair. If the smoke is coming this way, the hair's going to be up.
But meeting the smoke.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's what we did.
Well, my mom, she smoke it on the hair side because the other side she want it clear because when she's done with it, she'll smoke it, color it that side.
Okay. So the fire has kind of died down, and what happens when we're in enclosure with plastic like this is that there's not as much oxygen either. So when we opened it up, it started to smoke a little bit more because it's now getting all like a rush of oxygen. This is still warm enough to where if we kind of put the wood back together, it will start burning again better. I brought in some more punky wood so we can add a little bit more fuel to the fire. And the other thing that's nice about letting it kind of clear inside is we can check and see how dark the hide is. And it's gotten a little bit darker, but not a whole lot. So we're going to keep going. And we've been smoking for about 40 minutes. And so we're going to kind of put the fire kind of back together and then add the punky wood and then cover it up with the steel and then give it some more time. Having the steel over the fire, it helps the creosote stick to it instead of sticking to your hide, and it helps disperse the smoke more and even create more smoke because there's less oxygen getting to the fire. This is the hair side.
Oh, whoops.
Sorry.
Oh, gee, that looks nice. That's how it's supposed to look. Well, 2 hours is good enough.
Okay.
Next time you know. Really
Smells a little smoky.
thick smoke for 2 hours.
One of the things that's different about what we're doing today in May compared to what we're doing in December is that there's enough heat in activation energy heat to keep the fire smoldering without burning compared to when we're doing it when it's cold, and it wasn't even really cold. Like it could have been 20 or 10 degrees outside, but to keep the fire burning to create enough smoke, we had to add a little bit too much wood in there to keep it enough to keep it smoking. And so that's some of the differences that we're noticing between doing it in the winter and doing it in spring. And we're using way less wood to create much more smoke. And it's springtime, it's not really raining, it's pretty dry outside. And that's more of the ideal time. We've made an enclosure and have the hide placed in that enclosure, so it's kind of getting engulfed in smoke. It still has a directional where the smoke is hitting one side of it, but it's just wrapping around it, and it's more gentle.